Hello, welcome again to Conscious TV. I'm Iain McNay, and my guest today is Kevin Billett. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Ian. Good to be with you.
And Kevin has written a book called Consciousness, the New Currency, and he works with Brandon Bayes on the journey. They've worked together for many years and run the organisation together. And we're going to find out about Kevin's life. He's had a lot of fascinating insights. We're going to find out how he's integrated those insights, how they changed his life, and how he's now helping people in their own lives when things come up that are difficult to see and to change and to absorb and to move forward with. So Kevin, you were telling me earlier on the phone, at 2 years old,
Yes.
you were aware of things that you felt you had no right to be aware of. That sounds fascinating.
It was a strange thing, Ian. Yes, I went back to, as far as my memory goes back, 18 months to 2.5 years of age. I was aware of some joke. I was aware of some familiarity. I was aware that something was taking place almost behind the curtains in life. And although I couldn't tell you what that was, it was very present in those years, for sure. Yes, I would walk into a yard that I'd never been to before and just feel familiar, to know it, almost like the T.S. Eliot, you know, to return home and to know it for the first time. It felt a little bit like that.
So was it a good feeling, a relaxing?
It was a great feeling,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. It was an expansive feeling. It was a very light feeling.
Yeah.
And it felt nourishing. It felt like there was something holding me, something nourishing me. Although obviously at that age I couldn't describe what that was.
And yet so many kids at that age actually feel very insecure and threatened and not held, don't they?
That came later in life, really, wasn't it, at that age? No, at that time, just an inner joke and definitely a sense of being cradled and a deep sense of well-being in that. Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 years later, apparently you were playing in the back garden and you had this time when you had this question, who am I?
Yeah, that was a theme for, I would say, for a few years, from about the age of 5 or 6, that I had a longing, a thirst inside to know what is this that I'm calling me, and would just be playing and suddenly stop and go, well, I mean, you know, who is playing? Who is this? Who's doing this? And would kind of stop and close my eyes and would go, well, what it's me. And then the question would keep coming, well, who is that? Who's me? And then some recognition, well, if it's me, it can't be anyone else. So it's not my mum, it's not my dad, it's not the people around me, it's not anyone else, it's me. And then still the same question, who is that? What is that? What is me? And then just a sense of huge expansiveness, as if the physical form was just dissolving and all awareness, like a whole universe of awareness. And it was like something taking off inside. And it would scare me so much that I would just kind of collapse back into apparent normality and just kind of, you know, brush myself out of it and get on with playing whatever game I was playing. So it was a scary thing. It was expansive. It was definitely very, very large and big energy, but, you know, scary. And I didn't realize that there was anything to that. I thought this was something that all kids went through. You know, I never mentioned it to other people because they would know that I was scared of it, and that probably wouldn't have been a good thing. And so I never mentioned it to anyone. I just assumed this was part of growing up. I assumed it was something every kid went through, and I didn't find out until, I guess I was in my 30s. I didn't find out that not everyone actually does that, you know.
It's strange how you'd already learnt somehow that this is something, well, that could be normal and there's no need to talk about it to somebody else.
I assumed that it was normal, and I suspect that there was a little fear in there as well of the fact that I was scared of it, you know? And I was brought up in a pretty tough area.
So it wasn't quite manly, the fear side wasn't quite manly.
That's what I mean. I was brought up in a very working class area in the Rhondda Valley, is a coal mining valley in South Wales, and so to admit little weaknesses like that, you know, you were taken or made fun of quite robustly, let's say. So yeah, it wouldn't have been something I probably would have wanted to admit. And I did assume that everyone did this, yeah. And
did you fit in generally well with your school friends?
Ooh, now there's a question. Did I? With some yes and with some no is the honest answer, Ian. I liked to kind of roughhouse, to play fight to an extent. And the boys often got off on that, and it became quite aggressive and quite violent, at which point I would kind of step back and observe a little bit, because I didn't quite get that level of physical roughness, let's say. I had definitely close friends at that age, and there was a huge amount of bullying that took place in school and generally in the environment, and so not so well in those departments. I wasn't as tough as many of the people around, let me say that.
Yeah, there's that thing often when, especially as you say, from that environment, you've got to be quite tough just to survive and get by, haven't you? Otherwise, you're in a very vulnerable situation.
That's true, and so a lot of masks from a fairly early age, a lot of pretense.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then you were telling me that 8, 9, 10 years old, you would go into spontaneous meditation and just go and sit on your own for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, I can remember just on school journeys where my father would drive me to school, going into what I later would describe as some samadhi, and feeling the very thick fingers and huge body, thick legs. And not until I reached my 30s and started to read about some of the Hindu experiences that I realized it can be common in some traditions, that it's a manifestation, so it's believed to be a manifestation of Ganesha, the Hindu god. And I don't know what these things mean, Ian. All I know was that certain times I would fall into deep stillness, getting my hair cut, for instance, in the barbers, and would just close my eyes and just sink into a delicious inky blackness and be wide awake in that while the hair was being cut. And then 15, 20 minutes later, I'd get a tap on the shoulder to say, okay, you can wake up now. And I realized, well, I wasn't asleep, but I didn't even know the word meditation when I was very young. Yeah. So it was just some spontaneous happening. And
so you were, it seems, maybe quite naturally already in touch with something pretty fundamental without having an understanding of what it was.
Do you know, I guess so, Ian, and I don't have any explanation for it. Looking back, probably, yes, probably.
Mm. And again, you were telling me you went to church for a time, but that wasn't something you really connected with very much.
Yeah, my parents were ostensibly Christians. My family, going back a couple of generations, definitely were practicing Christians, and I suspect that Mum and Dad sent me off to Sunday school so they can have a bit of spare time around the house on their own on a Sunday, more than from any firm religious conviction. And although from an early age I loved the stories of Jesus, I loved the teaching that I could glean directly from a children's version of the Bible, never got on well with church, and I couldn't put it into words why that was. I mean, they would tell the same stories, but I would have some resistance to the people who were telling the stories. Didn't know why that was, just innately some rejection of it and some resistance to it. Looking back, I could put a spin or I could put an explanation to it, but as a kid I didn't know why. I loved the stories, didn't like the experience of either church or chapel, as was quite common in South Wales.
So what were you looking for at that time, do you think?
What was I looking for? I wouldn't have known what I was looking for at that time, is the honest truth. In fact, I would say that I wasn't aware that I was looking for anything. Mm. That didn't come until later in life, where I became aware that I was seeking something indefinable, seeking something initially that was outside or perceived to be outside of myself. It was a sense of lack before a sense of seeking, a sense of wanting. And feeling from, I don't know what, early teenage years particularly, maybe a little earlier than that, that something wasn't complete in me, that something wasn't whole, that something wasn't quite right, that there was something I needed to plug into, something I needed to connect with, something I needed to know or experience that would allow me to go, now I can relax. So now I'm here, now I'm whole.
In a way you did know in your own way what you were looking for. Something, and you described it, something you could plug into that would make you go and feel,
Well, it was an indefinable something, Ian. That's what I'll say. It wasn't that I had an idea of what that would be, although I've tried in a lot of different areas in life. From early teens, I mean, I guess the thirst was there, and so started to read Eastern spiritual books and to start to practice meditation and try to get out of body experiences, tried to reach some elevated state. And I found that there was some temporary win in that. There was some temporary salve to what I was feeling, the angst of life, if you like. But it never lasted. And so it was ultimately unsatisfying. And that anything I tried, any knowledge that I gained, anything that I gleaned, it would seem to sometimes make a connection that would just give me an elevated state for a short period of time. But then I realized, no, not that.
So when you tried to leave your body, did you succeed?
Did I succeed? Who knows? I had the experience of floating above my body, but whether I left the body, I mean, who knows these things? I had some strange experiences there for sure. But I mean, if you go in that direction, you probably will get some phenomena happening and some strange experiences, some less than normal range of experiences. And it didn't do anything, is the point I'm making here, Over my life since that, I've had a lot of what you might call spiritual experiences. But if they come and if they go, I keep asking the question, what's the point? What's in that? It's only something that can be realized to not change. Yeah, that ultimately is
for me, it underlines and shows and illustrates the fact that you were looking, either subconsciously or consciously, you were looking because something, as you said, didn't feel complete.
It didn't feel complete.
And I think so many people are looking without necessarily realizing they're looking or why they're looking.
Yes,
that's a very, very, for me, a very important point to bring forward here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you moved on, and I just look at my notes I met when we talked on the phone. And I wrote down what I wrote down was that you fell into the Western trap, making money, and that followed for quite a long time.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Tell us about that, how you made your money.
My parents started off very, very poor, and so we were in very modest circumstances when I was born. And eventually they both went to work for my mother's father, who had a very small jewellery business, and they kind of threw themselves into this, watch repairing, clock repairing, selling little bits of jewellery into this business, and they grew it. So from my age, I would say like 7 or so onwards, we gained in affluence, and it became this exciting thing that we were kind of moving out of the working class poverty trap, and we were moving into something more affluent. We moved to a different area, different environment, different school for me. The money started to come in, and there was a buzz to this. And so definitely I fell into the trap of believing, well, this is where it's at. This seemed to pull the family together, seemed to be a joint focus that had a win in it. And like any kid would, I got off on it.
There was an expansion there as well, wasn't there?
How do you mean that?
What I mean is that it was taking you beyond your existing boundaries. It was testing you to some extent.
In practical terms.
It was bringing satisfaction too.
Well, again, short-lived satisfaction. There's the rub with all of it. This went on for years with me, and I, after university, went into the family business and would find, there's a buzz here. In the moment of, a good financial week, a good financial month, a good financial deal, a win, that there's a frisson, and you go, great, give me that. But it doesn't last. And so then you keep searching for the same fix, and it becomes a drug,
Yes, I understand that, but when you're in it, there's a feeling, and I know this for myself, because our path is similar to some extent, so the whole business side. Yeah. And I can't personalise it. It's like the success or the finding the ability that I could be successful in business, for me had a value because it took me beyond my limited parameters and saw there was something outside that parameters that I could, in my own way, for a time, get satisfaction. And then, of course, if you're successful, that gives you leverage to do other things with your life. So it's kind of an opening. Now, the opening for me was primarily on the outside, not only, but primarily on the outside. And somehow that showed me a lot. It showed me a lot about the world. And it gave me the opportunity, if I followed it, like I think I'm going to follow you followed it, that actually is a dead end, but I had to find that out.
Oh, I definitely had to find that out for myself, Iain, because I bought into the illusion that a different lifestyle, more money, the right wife, the right family, the right house, the right car, the right vacations would actually be it, that it would give me what I was looking for. And there was a rush in it, no doubt, but the rush soon ended. And then it was more of the same thing, you know. I was, because I was locked into the cycle. It was like, okay, so I need to do what I was previously doing more in order to get the same feeling.
You see, I want to stop here for a moment. I think it's a very important point, because these days in society, the rush has increased generally amongst people, and it not only that, it has. Whereas you and I started at quite a low point in terms of success and really built up from nothing. I didn't. Sounds like you did pretty much as well. And now the encouragement of society is you get your degree at university and you start your rush higher up the chain, if you can get the job, that is. And it's almost as if you get the leg up, but the rush is still destined to fail, but it's a more attractive start to the rush. And society so much seems to be based, this word rush, the rush towards completion of something, and the nearer you get to it, unfortunately, the nearer you realise you may well be completely on the wrong path.
Well, it doesn't ultimately work, Ian. I mean, I was laughing there when you say, you know, you get your university degree and then you start up higher up the ladder, and you know, effectively you work towards whatever your goal is. But I'm seeing so much on TV. I don't watch a lot of TV, commercial, popular TV, but recently I've watched a couple of episodes of X Factor, and I'm seeing people there who just have this addiction is what it looks like, to being famous, to being a celebrity of some sort. And I look at that and I mean, I smile, but it makes me very sad inside to know that whatever it is they think they're going to get, even if they succeed, even if they're the ones who do go through, even if they're the ones who get the recording contracts and the fame and the fortune, ultimately it is not going to give them what they're looking for.
Yes. And it's also very hard work when you get in that whole music business thing. For sure. It's a crazy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to you, you got a degree in economics.
I did, yes.
Yeah, joined the family business, as you said, and you studied books that were going to bring you wealth and success.
I tried everything. Going back to the 1980s and the personal growth movement, you know, so I was trying to figure out, okay, so if I'm beginning to succeed, and the financial success was coming, it was building, still didn't feel right, and I thought, well, what is missing now, you know? Okay, so I'm married, I have a beautiful wife, I'm driving the right car, I'm living in the right house, what's wrong here? And then I went into the personal growth movement of the time, you know, how do you build your self-esteem? Well, you know, these are the things you say to yourself, you repeat these words internally, and you make the right pictures, and you try to convince yourself that the way you feel is not really the way you feel. And that was where I started, really, was with the whole visualization and self-affirmation part of the personal growth movement back in the 1980s. And again, I mean, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record here, but the same thing happened, you know, a temporary win, a temporary change of state, so temporary uplift, followed by a realization that doesn't actually give me anything, and then poof, falling back down into previous state.
Which is quite a depressive state.
It turned into quite a depression for me. Yeah.
And the only way you could get yourself out was by more activity, is that right?
At the time it seemed that way, I would just get really fed up with
myself.
myself.
It's a real addiction, isn't it?
Anger, and then driven into a cycle, and I wouldn't say not like what do they call it these days? Not manic depression. They've got a different word for it these days. Bipolar. Not like that, because I didn't get the extreme highs, but just normal sort of highs. But then plunging down into a real hopelessness that something was not right with my life. That something fundamental did not add up. Something was missing, and that took me past the point of hopelessness into a hopeless devastation quite often, where I would then just lie on the sofa and take days off work, just be unable to move.
That's scary to be in that situation.
It was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Pretty scary. Yeah.
And then you had this defining moment, which you told me about earlier, where you were. Just tell me through that.
I was driven by seeking something more on the outside, as I've explained to you, Ian. And it was very materialistic in the play, although I was looking for something fulfilling. I was looking for something that would complete and emotionally connect me deep under the surface. And so my game was that I would fall into a depression and then drive myself out of that with, what's the next goal? What can I achieve? What can I do? What can I attain that is going to fix this fundamental problem. And so I became acquisitive in terms of, got to have the bigger house, got to have the better car, the sports car, got to take better vacations. And I started to water ski, and started with very small ski boats, and they were great fun, We had a lot of fun water skiing, family, friends, but it was always, I've got to get the bigger boat. It's like, okay, after this is plateaued, and again, same pattern, I've dropped back down, still don't feel right. Oh, maybe the next size boat will do it. And I got to the point of I had a dream for a big Sunseeker, motorboat, a big kind of luxury yacht, if you like. And this was the next big thing, and so I had all the business plans, all the drive was working. I mean, not literally around the clock, but you get the picture. I was pretty much a workaholic, and the plan was this Sunseeker. And I went on holiday with my wife and young son, and we were down in the south of France on the promenade in Cannes, and we were just walking along one night. Baby in the buggy in front, sun had just gone down, so it was getting dusky, and there, just anchored out in the bay was the boat, and it was the boat. It's the right size, the right model, it was even the right color combination. And I just stood there and went, oh, that's it, that. If I could have that, then everything would be right. Then I'd know whatever it is I'm supposed to know about myself. Then I'd feel good about myself. Then I'd feel complete. And the strangest thing happened as I turned, my wife just kept walking slowly with Mark, our son. And I stopped and opened, and it was as if all my awareness just got taken onto the boat, almost like one of those pan shots where you go, whew. And I could see there were people sitting on the back of the boat there, and they appeared to be drinking cocktails of some sort. And my awareness went there as if I was with them. And so I had the experience inside of sitting on the back of the boat on the deck with my friends. And in that moment, the most cataclysmic realization arose, because I realized, if this is my boat, if these are my friends, if these are the cocktails I'm sharing with my friends, I'm still not there. I still don't have whatever it is missing. And I'm still fundamentally not happy. And that was a devastating realization. It debunked my whole life strategy, because I got to the point of realizing, it doesn't matter how much of this I do. It doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter what I attain. It doesn't matter what I accrue. It doesn't make a difference. And that sent me into a complete scramble, into a downward spiral with depression, and into a more desperate version of the same game playing, knowing that it wasn't going to do anything. So I became pretty manic in my activity, trying to create wealth, trying to accrue more, while absolutely knowing inside still the emptiness, still the dissatisfaction and the fundamental depression with my state in life. And that took a little while to work through, but there was the turning point, the realization that what I'd set my life up to be, the image that I had of myself, the ideals that I'd created, were worthless. They added up to nothing. They meant nothing.
Well, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because it is a taking away of how you constructed yourself, your own values, your aims, how you see yourself, self-image.
Absolutely.
All gone, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
That happened in a moment.
It happened in a moment.
Yeah.
And so then, I guess like a desperate winding down of the game, while I realized that everything I'd ever tried was futile, that life itself was futile. And I spun into a horrible, worst form of depression that I ever have experienced and ever hope to experience. And was went to see a GP friend of mine, and he said, look, I'll refer you to someone who doesn't prescribe drugs. He's a psychiatrist. You need to see this guy, because you've got something going on here. And I went, okay, I'll go and see a psychiatrist, and sat down with him. And I went to see him because I didn't want the drugs. And he sat down for about 20 minutes with me and asked me a list of questions as long as your arm, and to which each one I said, are you experiencing this? Yeah. Are you experiencing this? Yes, yes, yes. And it was just a tick list for clinical depression. At the end of which he said, well, you need to take these drugs. Yeah. And so I did, and that in itself was a pretty horrible experience. It kind of normalized me in an abnormal way, if that makes any sense. There was a sense of aggression that came out from taking. Am I allowed to mention the name of the drugs I was taking, or does it make no difference? Of course. I was taking large doses of Prozac and diazepam, temazepam, and it just wrecked me internally. I felt like I was living some alien life, and although the clinical depression kind of leveled off, it was the most strange experience.
It took away your spirit, I think, didn't it? Or it damped down your spirit.
It seemed to rob me of all spirit, and that would be pretty accurate to say. Yeah, I felt like I was functioning in life, but not living life.
Yeah.
And it truthfully wasn't as bad as the worst of the depression, but it was no answer at all. And then a strange thing happened. A friend of mine said, "I've booked you a therapy." He said, "I've booked you a session." And I went, "What is it?" And he said, well, I don't know. It's something new, so try this." And for the first time in my life, I sat down with someone. They said, "What are you feeling?" And I told them, and they said, "Oh, good, okay. So just be with that, just open." And I thought, well, aren't you supposed to make this better? Aren't you supposed to do something with this? They said, "No, just close your eyes. Just be with what's here. Just open and feel emotionally what you're feeling. Where is that in your body?" And I went, "Okay, I'll give it a go." And in a progressive way, just got worked with by someone saying, effectively, embrace what you're feeling here. Give yourself permission to feel what's here and to feel it fully. Not to just kind of, get a glimpse of it and then turn the other way. Not to avoid it, not to think your way through it, but simply to focus down inside the body, simply focus on emotionally where it is, what it is, and let that be okay. And then if there was something deeper, to explore that. And what I found was I started to drop down an emotional chain internally. And the emotions got deeper, they got more core, they got pretty desperate. And at a certain point when I reached some absolute hopelessness inside, again, instead of saying, "Okay, let's fix this, let's work with this," I was told, well, just face it, just feel it, just allow it all to be here. And truthfully, I was so desperate, I had little resistance. I just went, you know what, I've done everything, I've tried everything I know, and so I'm willing, for the first time, just to stop and go, okay, enough already, I'll feel it. And through desperation, fell into a void of nothing. Just like a whole universe that was completely empty. And again, the same thing. What if you accepted that? What if you surrendered into that? What if you just let go? Internally. Sure, okay, let go. Into complete nothing, into oblivion. And then the next question, well, what's here? Death is what arises. Well, if I continue to let go here, I will die. And again, the same question, okay, so what if you did that? What if you just experienced that in this moment? What if you let go completely? What if you let go into death? And at that point, I was ready. I was like, I'm willing, absolutely willing to let go into death. I thought, okay, if this is it, if it's all over, so be it. And let go and experience the body dissolving. It was as if the whole physical form just, just dissolved, fell away, melted back into all existence. And then the question came, well, what's the experience now? What's here? I had no belief in afterlife, no belief in reincarnation, just, well, that's it. And then some deeper version of expansive nothingness. Same question. What if you just surrendered into that? What if you let go into the essence of that? And then I think the awakening of my life, when I let go into complete, utter nothing, some sense of fullness, some light, some realization that everything that I've ever been seeking in my life was already present. Not that I'd reached for it and brought it in from the outside, but that here it was, in the core of my most essential experience. Here was the wordless answer to the question I'd been posing forever in my life. And that has never left. The knowing that everything I've ever sought is already here, is already present, has stayed with me since that moment. And that's the most extraordinary way to live life in. Stop looking on the outside, although I pretend from time to time, you know. But I got it, that everything that I need is here. Everything that I desire is already here.
So it was veils
Something
that were
like
covering it, basically.
Yes, it's a good metaphor at least. Yeah.
And it's, of course, if you can't see within and you know something's missing,
Yeah,
it's logical, almost intelligent that you look
sure,
outside.
sure,
And it does, for many people I know, take that
Yeah.
utter desperation,
yes,
the giving up, and then the falling back. And as you say, having nothing to lose in your case.
sure.
And in that courage to fall back, you find what is truly you.
Mm. I think it was desperation more than courage, and definitely the experience was that way.
Yeah.
And it was as if someone came and either pulled back veils or cleared the mist in life. And I realized that, for sure, that what I'd been seeking was right here. But I realized also that my emotions didn't own me anymore. And I could see in the weeks after this, the patterns that I'd run through my life where I would get so low that I would have to find some way to bounce out of that depth of emotion. And there was a fear driving that bounce. There was a fear, well, if this gets worse, then it's unbearable. Then I'll die. Then something horrible will happen if I go deeper. And the truth was that it was the reaction to that fear that was causing the problem. And the moment, the very moment that I stopped and went, okay, so if this is as bad as it gets, what if I surrender to the worst that could possibly happen? Emotionally, directly to the experience, not to fantasize about it or to tell a story, but to simply stop and open fully emotionally into the core of that experience. Then in that, everything present. In that, no issue, no problem. And I mean that literally. So that was a massive awakening for me, massive awakening. I'm grateful for that to this day.
And how was it ongoing? Because I think, again, you told me earlier that there were still challenges and you'd
There are
forget.
still challenges, Ian, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, after that first experience, I would say I lived in bliss, pure bliss, for about 4 or 5 months after that. And then
You lived in pure bliss for 4 or 5 months.
For
Well,
4 or 5 months.
It's a pretty good start.
That's a damn good start, I would say.
Yeah.
And then some life crisis occurred, and I got hooked back into the story again. And for a while, I mean, this is it's not a fully accurate way to say it, but it's as close as I can get. There's some contraction takes place, some focus going on to thinking, and some neurotic wheel of analysis takes place. And in that, buying back into the old stories, and then catching myself again and going, okay, I need someone's help with this, because sometimes it's okay to sit down on my own and go, okay, what's here, open emotionally, fall into peace, fall into the bliss that is the substratum, and it works. And other times the story's too strong. And so I would just grab a friend and say, okay, just sit down with me, please, and just ask me, what's here? And encourage me to let the mind fall away and to open into the emotional experience until whatever is at the heart of this is exposed. And so I would think over the years, if I've gained in wisdom in one thing, Ian, it's simply to stop and to open to address the depth of the issue that I would pretend is operating here or superficially in life, but which I now know is something much older and something much more fundamental. Because we tell ourselves stories, my problem is I don't have money to pay the mortgage. My problem is my spouse is behaving this way to me. My problem is my kids don't do as they're told. And you know what? That's not the problem. It's not the problem. Our problem is that it's triggering something so deep inside us that we're asleep to it. And if we're just willing to stop and take a look at that depth, so much sorts itself out. So much is self-handling in life.
I think also one of the challenges is there isn't much else in the world that supports that. The media certainly doesn't support it. Kind of television doesn't support it. Talking to most people doesn't support it. It's very rare that you say you can sit down with a friend and really explore, go into the depth of your feelings. Well, that's rare.
It is rare, Ian. I mean, you see the antithesis. You mentioned the media. I mean, I see most popular media feeding on our fears and just putting a spin on them to make money out of it, and it's a huge shame. Because
it's a business model. Yeah.
It's the way tweaking. I'm talking. It's a shame in terms of human development, in terms of consciousness on the planet. It's a massive shame because our fears are getting tweaked, and we are increasingly conditioned to react against our fears rather than to stop and to inquire. And the way through is to simply explore what truth is here. If there's some emotional avoidance, then just stop and go, okay, what if I faced it? What if I stopped in this moment and said, okay, I've got fears here. I'm willing to embrace those fears. I'm willing to be bigger than the fears. I'm willing to open and really welcome them. It's not something people teach, but there, in my experience, there is a resolution.
So on a practical basis, I know you and your wife, Brandon Bay, you have this event, shall we say, called The Journey, which helps people to go through this process you've been describing.
Yes. Yeah.
So people obviously have the option, if they want to see if they can find a place to do the journey. But if that's not possible, either cost-wise or geographically, what can someone do? Now, for you, when you sat down with a practitioner, first of all. Is it possible for somebody who hasn't done maybe, say, much personal work on themselves just to sit down and actually go through these layers?
It is possible, Ian. It works better with someone else. I mean, if I'm allowed to put a little advert out here, Brandon's original book called The Journey is extraordinary.
Yes,
the process work here and the facility of dropping down to the emotional levels and some other extraordinary work is included in that book. For the sake of spending £10 or whatever it is on a book, to get that, give it to a friend and say, just read this script out to me. It doesn't need any practice. It doesn't need any expertise. It needs a commitment and a willingness, and a desire to be free rather than a desire to be engaged in the story and to make a better version of the story.
Yeah. I was just again looking at my notes here. One thing I wrote down was that you said we are constantly waging war in and against ourselves.
Oh, sure.
Explain that more.
Well, we're conditioned from an early age to react to fears. In the brain research that I've read over the last decade is pointing to the fact that our limbic system really is a mechanism for generating automatic behavior that takes us away from pain. And it reacts to physically and emotionally charged circumstances in our life with the desire that doesn't happen again. And so we learn to be fearful machines. We learn automatic behaviors, strategies, analyses that take us out of the pain. But truthfully, it's a very animalistic response. It's one that we can dress up as humans and make look like something else, because we've got all the explanations, all the personal justifications for why we behave in a certain way. But the truth is, you're working at a limbic level, so at a reptilian brain level to get out of pain, and we're putting different masks on it. But the truth is that if we are just willing to stop the fight, if we're willing to stop avoiding the emotions that we're most afraid of, what we seek is right there. It's already present. It's nothing that we need to gain, nothing we need to accrue.
Someone in day-to-day life, what does that mean? It may not be obvious to them. They're seeking to stop avoiding the emotions they're most afraid of. So give me some practical examples of that.
I'll give you a personal example. A few years ago, I was in an event with Brandon, and she was doing a training for the trainers. So on a Friday night, she was doing like an hour-long session of training people in the techniques for the journey. And I was running the sound desk for her. And she was at the front of the room talking away, and I'm in a good place, and all of a sudden, rage comes up internally, and I'm really angry, and I don't know why I'm angry. And so I realized, okay, in this moment I'm hooked. Something has triggered me. I don't know what it is. What I do know is that it's not about current circumstance. I've learned that by this point in my life.
It could be triggered by it.
Okay, here's the thing.
Sorry, I'm jumping in.
So I realise I've got a professional job to do here. Yeah. I've got a choice to make. I can either be really pissed off at the back of the room and have this huge kind of energy going on, or I can inquire. And so I just closed my eyes and I simply asked, okay, so there's rage here. If there was something at the core of this, and I really kind of energetically opened, softened physically, and really authentically inquired, what's at the core of this? What's driving this? What am I avoiding with the rage? And a sense of humiliation came up. And with the humiliation came a memory. And the memory was from several years prior. What had happened was I'd gone, I told you I was on the personal growth road for quite a while. I had gone to a Tony Robbins seminar in America. And what I hadn't noticed consciously was that Brandon had mentioned Tony's name from the front of the room. And this had triggered rage in me for no apparent reason, except when I closed my eyes, go back to a memory, turned up at Tony's seminar and registered with a couple of friends. We're on different parts of these long registration tables. I sign in and the person behind the table says, here's a ping pong ball. Please write your name on it and throw it in the sack at the back here. So I write my name on the ping pong ball, throw it in the sack, went off, met my friends and said, it was a strange thing. They asked us to write the ping pong ball on, the name on a ping pong ball and put it in the sack. I wonder what that's for. And they said, oh, they asked us to write a team number on there as well. So I go back to the woman and say, can I have my ping pong ball back, please? Because I didn't put my team number on, which she kind of shows the sack. And there's like 1,000 ping pong balls. She says, you're welcome, but I don't think so. Next day, we turn up for the opening of Tony's seminar, 2,500 people there. So he comes on stage, and Tony's a fabulous presenter, big showman. He's got this big contraption on the stage with like a gold lame cloth right over it. And with a huge flourish, he takes this lame cloth off, and he's got this massive Wheel of Fortune cage underneath it filled with 2,500 ping pong balls. And he's kind of winding people up and saying, okay, we're going to spin the Wheel of Fortune. Someone is going to win a prize. Could be up to X thousand dollars. And the arrow goes round, $2,500 of prize. And in that moment, I don't know if you've ever had this, but my gut went, uh-oh. And I knew that it was going to be my ping pong ball coming out of that. Now, how that works, I've no idea. Well, I swear to you, I knew that my ping pong ball was coming out of that cage. He pulls it out, and he goes, Kevin Billett, where are you? You've got a $2,500 prize, free trip to Maui with something or other thrown in. He said, get up on your chair. So in front of 2,500 people, I get up on my chair, and I'm going, yeah, $2,500. And he turns it over and goes, oh, silly boy, you didn't write your team number on the back of the ping pong ball, therefore your prize is forfeit. Tosses it back into the cage and moves on with the seminar. Now, in the moment, as you can imagine, first thing that I feel is enraged. I'm standing up going like this in front of 2,500 people, and someone says to me, oh, silly boy, you didn't do your job properly. But truthfully inside, what was the emotion? Complete humiliation. I felt like a total fool in front of 2,500 people. Now, this had been triggered just by mentioning his name by Brandon on stage. So the rage had come up. And I'm simply, in that moment, choosing to go, okay, what's the real cause of this? What am I avoiding emotionally at the deepest level? For unknown reason, in the moment, humiliation. Becomes clear why that's here. It's been triggered. It's an old cell memory that's been triggered. So what I simply did was, I put out a prayer, I put out a prayer to life and said, okay, what if I was to surrender into all humiliation in this moment? And I'm checking internally, are you willing to do that? Yes. So I go, okay, grace, life, please, just bring all humiliation here so it can be experienced. And I feel it coming right up from my groin, up through the body. My face must have turned bright red. I would say it was like embarrassment turned up 1,000-fold for probably 2 or 3 minutes. And then it felt as if something lifted. It felt rather effervescent. And then bliss. And I sat in bliss, not for months that time, but I sat in bliss from Friday night until the Wednesday of the next week when someone pissed me off next time. You know, that's pretty good leverage. 2 or 3 minutes to say, okay, what have I avoided all my life? Humiliation, that's something I know I've avoided that since I was a kid. 2 or 3 minutes of that, and in this case, we'll say, what, like 4 days, 3.5 days of pure bliss? That's pretty good leverage.
It's interesting you said that it's held also in the cells.
Yes.
Which we know more and more about now.
That's as I understand it, Ian, yeah.
It's not just held here, it's held as also energetically in our body.
Yeah, if you read Candice Pert and Molecules of Emotion, she's got a lot of lab research that backs that up. If you speak to Deepak Chopra about it with his phantom cell memory work that he's done, his theory that he has there, I'm not much of a theorist, and it seems to hold good. It does seem to be that traumas where we have not fully been open and present in the moment to the emotional consequence, they stick someplace inside the body, and they stick variously in the organs, and they can be triggered by random events.
Yeah.
You know, you get told off when you're a kid, you get maybe a slap off your parents, and you get a look and a tonality of voice that goes with it. And you know, you harbor it, you shut down, you brace against it. And then you can be well into adulthood, and someone gives you that look. Just the look is enough. And all of a sudden, there's some emotional glitch, some tensing inside, and we don't know what it's about. Often related to some old cell memory where we've not fully opened to experience the consequence in the moment. The good news is that, I mean, you can do it anytime you like, and then it loses its grip.
When you talk about bliss, do you find the bliss deepens over time?
That's a good question. Never explored that, Ian. No, that is not my experience. In truth, it's not. The bliss is bliss. It's been the same since that moment of awakening I described to you with the first drop through. I would say it's more readily available. It's more commonly my experience as time has gone on, but the bliss itself hasn't changed. I've recognized it's not that I'm blissed out all the time. I'm not like a bliss ninny walking around with a huge smile on my face. I recognize that there's some fundamental being, some positive, huge embrace that's the substratum for everything that takes place in my life. And the ups and downs occur. I get hooked like anyone else does, and still if I just stop in the moment, okay, here's truth.
And I presume that bliss is part of something else?
I think it's a face of the self, Ian. I would experience it as just a fragrance, more accurately, of the self.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I'm just using bliss as an example, sometimes it's a deep fulfillment, like nothing can add to it. That fulfillment overflows to such an extent that any extra that comes your way in life, any circumstantial boost or win just adds into a cup that's already overflowing. Sometimes it's pure stillness, absolute just nothingness, and a sense of grace in that, a sense of being held, of being on purpose.
And is there an interconnectedness that comes with that as well?
I feel like it all comes out of the emptiness, in that when we
so
surrender completely, it's full of everything. It's emptiness that's full. It's a complete paradox. Makes no sense to my thinking mind when I go there, and the experience is a truly wonderful one.
So the bliss is a manifestation of the emptiness that somehow is personalized towards you to some degree in some way. Is that, I'm just trying to get a feel of how this may fit together.
Yes to the first part and no to the second part. The bliss feels as if it arises out of emptiness, as do all experiences. Those that we would label good and those that we would label bad. It feels like it all comes from the same field. In terms of it being personalized, that's not my experience. It doesn't feel personal is the truth of it.
Right.
In this, there's a recognition that all consciousness is present and it's just one. There's no self and other, there's just self. It's all the same. So it doesn't feel personal now.
Okay. And is that a space that you're living in much of the time, that it feels all the same?
That's a recognition, Ian, yes.
Yeah. It's a very deep place.
It's a place that anyone can experience if they're simply willing to stop and to embrace reality, to really embrace reality. And I'm not talking from a mental level. I know you get this. I'm talking to embody reality, to embrace reality physically, emotionally, completely. If you surrender to what is, everything is already present, already waiting.
That's a great place to finish.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for coming along.
Really enjoyed
to
it.
Conscious TV. And I'm going to give a little plug again for first of all, there's the book by Brandon Bays I haven't got with me, which Kevin mentioned too, The Journey it's called. And the book that he's written with Brandon called Consciousness, the New Currency. So thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
And thank
Great
you
pleasure.
for watching Conscious TV.
So hello and welcome. This exercise is designed to allow you to really accurately feel whatever is being felt inside the body and to explore what's deeper, what's underneath that. And let's see if we can really get to some opening into grace, opening into realization here. It takes a willingness, it takes an open heart, nothing much more than that. So if you would, make sure you're sitting in a nice comfortable position. Okay. Make it an upright position so the energy can move through your body nice and fluidly. And then if you would, to close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, just take a good long deep breath in. And let it all the way out. And a second good long deep breath in. And let it out right to the end of the breath. And continuing to breathe this way, fully, deeply. Let awareness turn in on itself. Let awareness turn inside the body. And in that place, just invite the mind, the thinking mind, to wind down. Like a fan whose switch has been switched off at the mains. Just slowly unfurls and comes deeply to rest. Just relax. Good. And then let awareness scan through your body, from head to toe. And just inquire, what's here? Emotionally, what's here? What am I feeling? And if you first get a sensation in the body, some glitch, some holding, you could ask, if this had words, what might it say? And speak those words out loud. If this part of the body wanted to communicate something, what might it say? Speak those words. Good. Or if you've got a sense or an emotional feeling inside the body, just name that. And if you've spoken the words, just ask, how do they make me feel? How do they really make me feel? At the deepest level, what do they bring up for me? What's here? And then whatever emotion arises, just welcome it. Just settle into it. Open to embrace it. All resistance melts. Surrender completely into it. Let it all be here. You're so much bigger than this emotion. Just let it be. Where in your body do you feel that? Where is it? Okay, good. And so let this emotion just turn itself up. Automatically, just rise, burgeon. And then ask if there was something deeper than this. If there was something beneath this. And you let go into it. What feeling would that be? What sense, what emotion? And just allow yourself to drop right into that. Whatever that is fine. And notice where you feel it, where in the body. And just name it, whisper it out. It doesn't need to be the perfect name, just whatever arises. Good. And letting all of this be here, and it can turn itself up naturally if it so desires. Just embrace it fully. And then ask, if there was something underneath this, what might that be? What could that be? Just treating it as an exploration, just open and allow yourself to fall right into whatever's next. Just open and drop right into it. Whatever this is, it's perfect. That's it. Just let go. What's here? What is this? Where in the body do you sense this? Where is it being felt? And if this emotion had a name, what might that be? Great work. So stay wide open. Allow all of this to be here. And again, just inquire if there was something deeper. If there was something underneath this. What is that? What's here? What's arising? Just allow yourself to completely open and let go. Open and fall right into whatever's next. Whatever is here, it's all okay. What is this? What arises? What's present? Good. Just embrace it. Allow it to be fully here. No resistance, all acceptance. Welcome. Welcome all of it. And continue in this way. Opening and deepening. Surrendering and dropping right into what's next. Until eventually you reach a place of expansiveness where all contractions disappear. Maybe you get a sense of nothing, or void, or darkness or blackness. Just keep opening and falling right in. Let go of everything. Whatever's here is welcome. And then eventually, when contraction ceases and you experience some real letting go, some expansiveness or nothingness, simply ask, what's in the heart of this? What's in the core, in the essence of this? And let go right into the heart of it. Maybe you feel yourself being drawn into it, falling into it. Just allow. Welcome it. Fall right into the heart of the heart. And then name what's here. What is this? What sense? What feeling? Where is this? Good. And asking, if you were to open right into the heart of this, just inquire. Inquire of your being. If you opened right into the core, into the essence of even this, that's it, just let go. Just be carried right into the epicenter, expanding, letting go. What's here? What's realized? What's sensed? Just open with it. Let go into it. Let go as it. Beautiful. And then just one more time. Let go completely into the heart of whatever's here, into its quintessence. Allow yourself to fall, expand, and in that expanding, surrender completely. Just let go of everything. That's it. Beautiful. What is this? If this had a name, what might it be called? Stay wide open. And just rest. Rest as this realization. Rest as this expansiveness. You can rest here for as long as you like. Then recognizing, eyes open, eyes closed, same awareness, same consciousness. When you're ready, just bring awareness back to the body, back to the physical form. You can wiggle your fingers a little bit to orient yourself. And then take a nice long deep breath in and let it all the way out. And a second good long deep breath in and let that all the way out. And then gently, slowly, when you're ready, you can just open your eyes and familiarize yourself again with your surroundings. Good work, good job. Congratulations. Thank you.